Welcome to Heartbeats and Footprints, the show that is all about personal growth. From faith to relationships, business, and fashion, chances are, if you are thinking about it, we are talking about it. My next guest is somebody I'm really excited about. Really, I'm introducing an Instagram page, surprisingly enough. So her name is Shifra Tauber, and her page is known as Niddah Hug. And Niddah Hug was born through Shifra's personal feelings and struggle with Taras HaMishpacha, which I'm sure many of you can connect with. Her goal was to connect positively to it. It began as a small passion project and became an account that inspires women around the world in the observance of this mitzvah, because as much as it is something that we keep private, truthfully, we're all in this together. I couldn't have said that any better. So Shifra, tell us, how did you get started with this? Like, what was the motivation? I mean, you said a little bit over here, but we all go through it, but none of us are starting these amazing Instagram pages. So what pushed you to do this?
Okay, so first of all, thank you for the kind words and thank you for having me. So going back, I would say the motivation for starting Niddah Hug began, like you said, it was something that I did and do struggle with. And there was a time that I was, speaking to a friend of mine, and like we were sharing, openly, candidly, and she told me that the harchakais aspect didn't exist in her marriage yet. And that she was saying that she's like jealous of me because like I get to keep that, like Taras Mishpacha in its, I guess, entirety. And I remember
What did you mean by that?
So for her at that point in her marriage, like Taras Mishpacha wasn't including the touch aspect. So she might have, let's say, I'm not here to, pry, but let's say she was keeping the mikvah part or whatever it was for her at that time, but touch wasn't part of the equation. Like that was all the time, regardless of Niddah or not Niddah.
Interesting. And interesting that she was jealous of you. That's interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
And I felt like, 1 minute, like I'm like, so to speak, jealous of you because you don't have to keep it. Obviously, it's not about have to or not have to. It's we all have the same laws that we're given. But it was just that feeling of, 1 minute, she's looking at me and seeing that I have something that she doesn't have yet. And I remember thinking like, okay, there's something more here. There's something that I want to find. Like she sees something in it. Like, what is it? And I really wanted to connect more positively, also because I felt like it's a mitzvah that was given to a woman. So it's ours. It's something that I want to connect to in a positive way. I also heard that when a mitzvah is hard for you, that's like your mitzvah. And I felt like, okay, this is my mitzvah, something that I need to work on. So then the way that Niddah Hug ended up taking off is I love to draw.
And it's obvious, yeah.
And thinking creatively and, putting in all that brain work. And I spoke to my mashpia, my spiritual mentor, and I said, what do you think about creating, like if I would create like an Instagram page with the idea of, posting things that are inspirational, motivational, funny, like just things that connect positively, like I said, to Taras Mishpacha. And she was pro, and it took off from there. Like I said, or like you said, it started off as a passion project, as really like the people that followed me were, family, friends. Obviously it was meant for everyone, but then it took off.
Yeah. I mean, not just saying this because you're a guest on my podcast, but I invited you because I love this page so much. And I'll go again and again and reread and re-laugh at all these memes. They're unbelievable. I wish I could show it, but everybody after this episode is going to check you out. So my question to you, though, we all go through it. I mean, all married women, we all have our ups and downs with this mitzvah, but not all of us are starting this page, and not all of us have the talent that you have. So, you took it from dream into reality. What was that like for you? Like the process?
So it was something that I think I would say like just strongly about putting out there, because I felt like I'm not the only one. Like there's so many women that are going through this. So if I want to do something that's hopefully going to potentially help me connect more positively, why don't I put it out there for other people? And that's, I would say, what pushed me. And it's honestly something that helps keep me going, because I'm like, well, I can't just not post right now. Like there's so many people that like are essentially holding me accountable. And when I do post, it's amazing sometimes to see the feedback, meaning it's not always like with comments that are public, but people will private message and say like, I really
Right.
needed to hear this today. And sometimes I'm just like, I didn't even know that that was something you needed to hear. It could be as simple as keep going, you'll get there. And someone will say, that's what I needed today. And so
You
I'd
don't
say,
realize though how powerful that is. Keep going. Like if somebody's really struggling and you know what that struggle is, right? Obviously you were struggling with this in order to do this. So keep going. All these powerful messages, you have no idea how it impacts people. It's unbelievable.
it amazes me like when people like will take the time and write a message, and really every time I feel like you never ever know like where people are coming from, how they're receiving it, how they're relating it in their personal lives. And honestly, that's something that inspires me, how someone's taking something just that they see online and applying it in their own lives. But really, every time that someone messages, it's just like, what? Every time it's that same feeling of, I don't even realize the impact that it has. And I'm not trying to say this in an egotistical way. I mean it more in a way like that there's people that are taking it to heart. And it's something that just inspires me to keep going.
Yeah. So I just want to add something to what you're saying because many people talk about Taras Mishpacha. I mean, I'm a college teacher, right? I could talk about it, I can preach about it, but not in any way, shape, or form can I do what you're doing. You are so witty, so creative, artistic, and I can keep going on and on and on. I can you tell that I love this page?
Thank you.
So honestly think that you're blessed. But let's go back a minute. What was your biggest struggle, and maybe what still is your biggest struggle with keeping Taras HaMishpacha?
I would say if I had to pinpoint maybe like one thing, I would say is almost the stories that like we tell in our minds. Like it felt very like felt slash feels very lonely and very isolating. I guess the idea that the physical separation almost feels like, wait, is that emotional separation, which it's not, but it's like the stories that we tell ourselves in our head. Oh, wait, if we're not like physically touching, then it must be that like my spouse is mad at me. And that's not the case. We're just keeping halacha. But that was because physical touch is my love language. That's something that like is like a struggle for me, just feeling that this physical separation is not emotional separation. And then there's like also other aspects, like sometimes people could feel like, okay, Taras Mishpacha is like you just go through it 12 days, but then what about when there's hiccups in the road, and then you just feel like, oh my, it's so overwhelming. And it's like it's specifically during nidas when all those hormones are out of whack, so it just makes it extra like overwhelming, I would say. Yeah, it's like I would say it's not really one thing. It's that all those things coming at that one time that you can't even get a hug. And that's what the challenge is. That it just
Yeah.
feels so distant and so far, even if it's a story we're making up in our head. Because, like I said, the emotional connection could be there, but we're telling ourselves, but wait, if physical touch is my love language and there's no physical touch, then what does that mean? Even though, obviously, like I said, we're keeping halacha. It has nothing to do with it translating to the emotional, because that's not what it means.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's very powerful what you're saying now. Did you have like sort of a mindset shift or it's still a struggle for you, especially because like you said, touch is your primary love language?
So it's very interesting because I definitely feel like having Niddah Hug gave me like that shift, gave me that perspective. But I wouldn't say that it just all of a sudden took away the struggle. Like it doesn't mean that, oh, I started Niddah Hug and I've never cried since. Like,
Well, that then you wouldn't be human, right? You're still
right.
human.
It's
Yeah.
just in all honesty that the struggle could stay, but the perspective I feel like is what changed. And it was honestly really cool for me to see how that slowly shifted. And like I said, it's not that it all of a sudden magically became easier and like, oh, everyone should go start a page because then they'll be, rocking away at this. It's more that it just gave me that kind of perspective that I know I needed, which is what I try to put out on my page. And again, it didn't take it away, but it helps. And I hope it continues to help me and help others. That's the goal.
It absolutely helps people. I can tell you that. It even helped me. So to me, it literally is like a Niddah Hug. So I love. How did you come up with your name, by the way?
So it's funny, like when people ask that, I don't think of it as something that took like a long time or was hard to create. It was more like I was going with, for me, I was going with the plan where it's like need a hug. Like when we think of Niddah, that's what we think of, like someone needs a hug.
Like,
I don't know if everyone thinks of it that way, but that's definitely how I thought about it. And then it could also be like just a hug during Niddah. It could go either
it's
way.
a great play on words. I think that either you're very, I don't think you realize how witty you are because, like, in reading your memes, you're laughing, but you really are. I'm going to go through some of them soon, but you really have a way with words and also your artistic capability. How do you come up with your content?
So I would say, like, God, really, it's not something that I feel
Love
like
that.
I could take credit for because, like, there's times that I'm just like, okay, what am I posting? um, so yeah, definitely giving credit where it's due, to Hashem. And I will say there's an option on my website, like if someone wants to submit an idea, that's always helpful. Not every idea is used, but they're all appreciated. Yeah, it's something that like I think about all the time. Like anytime, anywhere that I see something, it's like, can I somehow use that either for something inspirational, motivational, funny, and run with it?
Yeah, I get it. It's like when you're focused on something, that's what you're focused on. So
Exactly.
anything could be inspiration for you for your page. But I was going to ask you this at the end, but you mentioned a website. So I was going to ask you, people who are not on Instagram, you have a website with all your memes?
So there is a website. It's niddahhug.com, niddahhug.com. So the way it works is that it basically pulls the content from Instagram. So it's not like a perfect system. It has like a lot of posts, not all of them. And it also, like, if there's like a carousel post, it will only post the first slide, not the remaining ones. But that being said, I do offer it on WhatsApp as well. If someone doesn't have Instagram, they could subscribe that way and then they just get it directly to their phone. Even if someone has Instagram, if they just want it directly.
Oh, that's great to know because I know a lot of people who are not on Instagram and they would love to. When I was telling them that I'm recording with you, I said, you have to check out, but I know you don't have Instagram. So this is great. Is it possible to get previous posts?
So, I mean, if someone is referencing a specific post that I've posted before, I don't mind sharing it. But like on WhatsApp, it's basically whatever's new, that's what they're
It's new,
getting.
new stuff. Okay. What's the main message you would like to give whoever's listening to this? What would be your main message to them?
So if I'm choosing just one thing, I would say
You could
really
do more than one.
like you got this. And I think that's really also what I try to convey on Niddah Hug's page as well is, like I said, like Hashem entrusted it to us as women. So there's like, yeah, there might be challenges, but there's something about it that you and only you as a woman can do. And
Absolutely.
if God entrusted it to you, that means he also gave you the ability to keep it. He didn't just give you something that you can't do. And just to keep that in mind and to know, like, yes, there might be hard times, but also like really, really just keep that in mind. Like you got this.
Yeah, that is so powerful, by the way. It's like God doesn't give you something you can't handle. And as women, like you said, God gave us this mitzvah. We can do it. I love that. What else? You said you have a few messages.
I mean, depends which way you wanna go, but I feel like there's so many aspects to this mitzvah. And there's so many ways that it can go. But I guess also, if I'll add to it, is there's a lot of times that people feel like I'm the only one, and I
Yeah.
want to say you are never the only one, and it's something that is not spoken about so much. So I get it. It's something that when we don't talk about something a lot, it feels like, okay, it's just me. I'm the only one that feels that way. But really, like, you're not the only one. And besides for that, we're all in it together. Like, yes, even though it's not so widely spoken about, which we're trying to change here, doesn't mean that you're at all alone in this mitzvah. And so just remember that if you ever need support, you could always talk to your friends. Like it's not, Taras Mishpacha is not a taboo subject. It's something that we keep private, but it's something that like it's a mitzvah. There's no shame in keeping it. So we're allowed to speak about it as well.
Absolutely. I love that you said that. It's private, but it's not taboo. I love that line. That is so true. There's a lot of single women who have sort of like misconception about what Taras HaMishpacha is. Do you have anything to tell them? Like they're so afraid of it. They hear bits and pieces. Obviously, they maybe haven't taken Kala classes yet. They don't know for sure, but they're old enough to know something. What would you tell single women who are listening to this?
So I'll be very honest. I remember before I went to my college classes, on my way driving there, I'm like, I don't want to go.
That's
Like
funny.
it was just that feeling like kind of knowing what was coming. Obviously I didn't know everything, but yeah, a lot of times what ends up getting conveyed, trickles into conversation. And what singles hear is the hard parts. And so,
Right.
yes, Niddah Hug is there to validate the struggle. And I'm not just going to throw out terms like, oh, it's beautiful, because I don't always feel that way. I feel like trying to look for and see the beauty within the mitzvah is something that's like, it's a work in progress for me. And it's something that people could strive for, but it's not something that necessarily is automatic.
Right. You're
Um,
keeping it real, basically.
yeah.
You're keeping it
And
very real.
and I would say for singles, like it's something to be afraid of. It's something to look at as an opportunity for connection. Number one, with Hashem, who gave us this um, mitzvah, as well as it's an opportunity to connect to your spouse in a way other than just the physical, and knowing that it's not that your relationship is not only physical.
Message, by the way, for single people, because now it became, this is a separate topic, but about Shomer Negia. So it's kind of connected to what you're saying. A lot of couples struggle with that, but if they knew that the relationship is so much more than physical, this would help them. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great point.
And I would say really like go in with, I would say, an open mind, knowing that this is something that's there to enhance your marriage and not to take away from your closeness.
Yeah, I love that. So now, obviously, this would not even do justice if I just talk about a few of the quotes that you do, because everybody, believe me, you got to check it out, because the artwork, the creativity is just so on point. So, but I just want to go through a few of them that I chose, and there's so many. I really had a hard time choosing because there's so many of my favorites. But one of the earlier ones that you wrote, and I'm going to read it, is I think this was a quote from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, who said, "If you're close when you're supposed to be far, you'll be far when supposed to be close." I love that quote. What does that mean to you, emotionally?
So it's actually very interesting. So I'm Chabad. I grew up Chabad,
Yeah,
and Taras Mishpacha is something that we speak about even from a young age. Obviously, it's not something that we speak about in detail, but
yeah,
what I mean by that is like there's songs that, let's say, speak about the Lubavitcher Rebbe's 10 mitzvahim, which is like mitzvah projects that he was passionate about,
yeah.
and one of them being Taras Mishpacha. So like we would sing songs and say the words family purity. Maybe we didn't know what it entailed and what it meant, but it was something that was always like, there's no shame in talking about it. You're always allowed to. It's supposed to be spoken about. So this is a quote that I would say, as I grew up and understood it on a more deeper level, this is something that I feel like really just sums up Taras Mishpacha, because that's what it's about. Like Hashem gave us Taras Mishpacha, and like is showing us there's a time to be physically close. There's a time to be
Right.
physically apart. Again, not emotionally apart. But the Rebbe is saying that we shouldn't confuse these times. Like if we're close when we're not supposed to be, then that could affect when we are supposed to be close. Um, and again, it's something that's ingrained in me.
Yeah. So first of all, I think it's great that Chabad sort of educates the young girls and maybe boys also. Like you said, you may not understand it, you may not know what it is, but the words Taras Mishpacha or family purity, It's not like a foreign thing to you. So I love that. And you speak a lot about the emotional and the physical, and you had a post about that, how it's physical separation, not emotional separation. That was actually also another one of my favorite posts.
Thank you. Uh,
Yeah. You had another one where it said, "Don't count the days, make the days count." What did you mean by that?
So I would say that within Tarso Mishpacha, we hear about, the amount of days and people counting the days. But to me, it's more than that. I mean, don't know exactly where to attribute this quote, if it's Lubavitch Rebbe or somewhere else. So I'm sorry about that. But the idea is that we're not supposed to just go through it. Like, I'm counting and I'm just getting there. The point is, like, make it count. Moment, something that's worth it, not just a time that's passing.
Yeah, yeah, that's actually a very, very good tip. When I teach college, I teach them that as well. And every day you could do something else, show that you're in this relationship and that it's not just physical. Do something nice for your spouse, even if it's just a smile or a kind word. You had another great meme where you wrote, I guess you were talking about in the Altaheim, just because they had to break the ice doesn't mean our Mesiras Nefesh is any less. I absolutely love that. So tell me more about what you were thinking when you wrote that.
So I felt like I was thinking a lot back to COVID, when there was a lot of those
Oh,
restrictions that people couldn't. I mean, I don't know if this was everywhere, but like, people couldn't go out past certain times, and there were curfews and things like that. And it seemed so crazy that, like, in our day and age, like, there's these kind of things. And I realized, like, it's not even only about that. Like, there's times that people really just go above and beyond in keeping Taras Mishpacha. Like, for example, people will go to mikvah when it's the day of their sibling's wedding,
or a
when they're,
child's wedding. Yeah.
yeah, like all these things. And it's like, yes, the Mesiras Nefesh now might look different than it did then, but it's not any less in Hashem's eyes, and Hashem values that.
A
Like,
hundred percent. That is, it's a very powerful thought, because in whatever circumstance or whatever generation we're in, we do have different challenges. So no, we're not breaking ice. It's interesting. I don't know if people know this, but in Altaheim, mother-in-laws used to give their future daughter-in-laws like a axe or an ice pick, literally to break the ice. They had to go to the mikveh in the ice. So that's amazing. But we still do have our own struggles. So yeah, absolutely. Another one you wrote was, "Can't wait, but can wait at the same time." What does that mean?
right, so that was with regards to mikvah. And I felt like it's just funny, because it's like, on the one hand, sometimes we think of mikvah as this really overwhelming experience. So it's just like, okay, like, I could wait, like keep it in the distance. And then the other hand, it's like, no, 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 but I can't wait. I need it to be like behind me already. So it was funny to feel both those feelings. So can wait and can't wait.
And in life in general, we sometimes go through these sort of dialectic emotions. We can and we can't wait at the same time. So I thought that was actually very, very powerful. I may be putting you on the spot now, but do you have any favorites or any of the quotes that you've posted that you want to share?
So I would say that the posts that end up getting like the most like attention, number one, they're posts that I love and I'm just so happy to put out there. But like, I think it goes hand in hand that like people love it and I love it. So the way the page is, I guess, divided is that there's the three post categories of inspirational, motivational, and funny. So I have
Right.
a favorite from each. I could share like specifically from one.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I'd love to hear. I don't mind if you tell me from all three categories.
okay, I do feel like some of them are better if you see them, I guess.
I'm going to
Um,
reiterate to everybody, you got to see this, in reality, because it's so funny and so creative. But go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, I'll go with the inspirational. If you want to hear the rest, you can.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is one that has quite a lot of words. It's a palindrome kind of poem.
Okay.
So I'll read it, and then,
Go ahead.
like I said, like, it's obviously something that if someone were to see, it works a lot better than me reading, but we'll go with it. Okay. It's my choice to keep it, and I get to decide. I have big feelings. It's not an easy mitzvah, and even though I hear that's where the beauty is, yet I struggle. Is it worth the effort? And then it says, now flip the script, read it again, bottom to top. Worth the effort? It is. I struggle, yet I hear that's where the beauty is. Even though it's not an easy mitzvah and I have big feelings, I get to decide, and it's my choice to keep it. And
wow. Can I tell you something? I have chills going through my body right now. That is, we can end with this because that was so incredibly powerful. And I literally have chills going through my body.
thank you.
How did you come up with that? That is so brilliant.
So I once saw, I believe it was a friendship circle video that basically they did a similar kind of, I don't know if it was specifically a poem, but they like basically read a script and then they read it backwards. And I realized like sometimes that's the only shift we need, like to be able to see something from the other point of view, just like flip that narrative, like flip the script, you know? And I will say this one took quite a while to write because it's really hard to write forwards and backwards.
Yeah, that's how I'm like thinking, wow, that is amazing. That is really, really good. Do one more of your favorites. You choose one.
Okay. Should I go with funny or motivational?
Oh, it's a hard one. Let's just do both. Let's just do both. Go ahead. What's the funny one?
Okay. The funny one, again, like I said, when you see it, the illustration I feel like makes it kind of cute.
Trust me, everybody's going to be logging onto Instagram now.
Amazing. So it shows like a New York City subway, and it says the journey of Taras Mishpacha. So then the first slide says, if you see something, say something, with a picture
That's
of
cute.
a cloth. The next slide says, please mind the gap, and it shows 2 sets of footprints. The next one says, transfer is available, like, you know, Niddah to 70 km to Tahar. And the last slide says, the next stop is Union Station. So
Love it. I love it. You know what? I'm wondering, a New Yorker would really appreciate that because we know the subway system. That's brilliant. That's really good. I'm gonna have to look that one up because I don't remember seeing it. That's really good. Now, what was the motivational one?
And the motivational one is, it says, someone that inspires me in their observance of Taras Mishpacha. And when you swipe to the next slide, all you see is a black box that says zoom in. So when you're on your phone and you zoom into something that's like completely black, your phone ends up acting like a mirror. So you basically see yourself. And
whoa,
I like about that is that I felt like people are going to, you know, read the first slide and be like, okay, someone that inspires her, a big Rebbitzin or someone, some big name. And then they slide and it's them. And that's what it's about.
That is absolutely amazing. How'd you come up with that one? How'd you come up with all of it? My goodness. Wow.
Yeah.
Really, 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 for once in my life, I'm at a loss for words because, like you said, inspirational, motivational, funny, creative, artistic. You all have to check out her Instagram page and just scroll through each meme, read the captions. It is beyond. And if you don't have Instagram, you don't have to sign up for this, but check out her website. In the show notes, I will have all her information. So if you want to start following her on WhatsApp status, if you want to check out her website, but if you do have Instagram, check out her page. You will not regret it. Shifra, thank you so much for honoring me and all the listeners with your creativity and your words of inspiration, because yes, this can be a challenging mitzvah, but if you have the proper mindset, you got this. Those were your words.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me today. I'd love to hear what stood out for you on today's episode. So email me at heartbeatsandfootprints@gmail.com with all your comments. And if this episode resonated with you, make sure to like, follow, and share it with someone who could use some inspiration. Remember, every heartbeat and every step you take brings you closer to the person you want to be. So until next time, keep moving forward and let's continue to grow together.